I'm your staff announcer, Bob Thorpe. And once again, welcome back to the theater and the Outdated Entertainment Hour. We have a situation comedy show. Steve Gennarelli and Bob Smith talk about their favorite top 25 sitcoms of all time. Rubbish, I say. I've seen the list. These people couldn't know a quality sitcom from corned beef and cabbage. I mean, I go back to the 1950s, the funniest of all the shows. My Little Margie, I'm Miss Brooks, Life with Elizabeth, The Eve Arden Show. I guess I'm telegraphing the fact that I had the hots for all of them. Eve Arden? For the love of God. A goddess if I've ever seen one. Excuse me. I lost myself there. Hunker down, sit in your theater seats, and enjoy the Outdated Entertainment Hour. You there. We do not sell the milkshake candy bars here. You smuggle that into the theater. Security, usher this reprobate out. Hi, it's Bob Smith. You may remember me from my years of being an entertainment and sports writer, but now I'm the host of the Outdated Entertainment Hour. Thanks for being here, and have a happy and healthy 2026, whatever you do. We're glad to be back for our first show of the year. I believe this is into our third year here at the Entertainment Hour, and I want to welcome back Steve Gennarelli, the entertainment maven himself. We're going to look at our favorite 25 situation comedy television shows of all time. And I mean all time. There's a lot of old stuff on this list. A few new things that got slipped in, and just talk about laughing. I think we could all use a laugh right now, couldn't you? So let's look back at sitcoms that will stand the test of time. They're all classics, new and old. Speaking of classics, we got one of the greatest guitar players in the history of rock and roll about to say a few words. This man's a legend. All the best bands, all the best solo albums. What a guy. You know who I'm talking about? No? Well, hang on. You'll find out right now.
This is Joe Walsh. One thing I do when I'm not playing rock and roll is get on the air as an amateur radio operator. Also called ham radio, is a communication service provided by ordinary people just like you and me. We have a national emergency communication system in place 24/7, 365. Find out more about amateur radio at arrl.org/What is ham radio? See you on the air.
Well, welcome back, everybody. My name is Bob Smith, and this is the Outdated Entertainment Hour, our first edition of 2026. And we've got a good one for you. It's our favorite top 25 sitcoms of all time. Now, let me explain that. Nothing's the best. Nothing's the greatest. It's just our own personal favorites. And we'll describe how we came up with our selections as soon as I introduce you to our frequent guest and entertainment maven and everything else. It's Steve Gennarelli. Steve, welcome back.
Bob, it's great to be back. And this is one of my favorite topics, not only the history of TV, but especially the top sitcoms of all time.
This was harder to hone down than most of the other list shows you and I have done before, in that there's so many. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of situation comedies have hit network TV over the years. And by the way, we are focusing on network TV for the most part. You won't hear a lot of HBO stuff and stuff like that on here. This is basically a look back into the past with some modern shows mixed in too, right, Steve?
That's right. There are some modern shows, and Bob did give me a couple of good ground rules. We decided not to include any animated shows, and we also decided to avoid any kind of dramedies that are part comedy, part drama. So that knocked out The Wonder Years and Ally McBeal, some other shows like that.
I got news for you, and you probably won't agree with this, even though if it's fine on your list. I don't have MASH on my list.
Yeah, I put it on mine, but I definitely understand your reasoning because that's definitely veered into the drama aspect as the show went on. It's many year run.
It really did. And it also knocked another favorite of mine down a few pegs. An all-time classic show, I give it that. But as the show got later on in years, it tended to be more of a dramedy than a comedy. We'll get into all that. How are things just normally? Congratulations on the success. He's, by the way, the co-host of Six to Wrestling with John McAdam on the Arcadian Vanguard Network. And you guys have been kicking a booty out there in the podcast world. I just want to say congratulations and do more in 26.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's great working with John, the Arcadian Vanguard people like Luke Tippelman. And, the shows are so easy to do. I mean, we have really kind of broad topics like 1986 WWF. It's kind of easy to cover. And I've been doing some nice shows with Tony Richards too, the Pro Wrestling Time Tunnel. And I'm always excited and interested when you invite me to come here on the Outdated show for Outdated Entertainment or Outdated Wrestling. I always enjoy those.
Well, thanks for coming back. I always appreciate it too. And by the way, Happy New Year to you as well. Just want to say, have a good year despite all.
No, same to you. Hopefully we'll still be around and try sit-downs. And you want to get the list going, or if you want me to start, I will.
Yeah. But you know what? The idea is to look back in appreciation and fun at our favorite comedies, right, Steve?
Absolutely. And I'll start off with number 25. And when we did our top 100 a couple of years ago, Joe Puccio got a real kick out of this one. I had Get a Life, which was a Fox show that ran from 1990 to 1992 with Chris Elliott, well known from the David Letterman show. This was about a adult paper boy who had paper route. It was a really hilarious show. It was only on for 2 years on Fox on Sunday nights, but it was a beloved show, and I guess there's a DVD out on it too. So it's a lot of fun.
I never saw it.
There's going to be a few of those on this show, I think.
Once I left high school and started college, my viewership of sitcoms went completely askew.
But I know deep down you want to include rarities like Mr. Nice on your list. I know that about you.
Mr. Nice?
Of course, Mr. Nice from like 1967. I know you love that show.
News to me, my friend, news to me. I was still in short pants at that point. Number 25 from the Paul Henning collection is the Beverly Hillbillies. Now, the reason I want to say one other thing too. I don't necessarily like all the shows on my list that much, but I include them because of their cultural phenomena that they were at the time. The Monkey Show is not on my list, but that was a cultural phenomenon, that show. It became a huge hit for about 6 months, really, if you look back at the history of that thing. Same with Batman and a bunch of other crazy shows. But the Hillbillies was a huge hit that begat...
I think it was only for 11 seasons, so that's remarkable.
And it begat Petticoat Junction. And it begat Green Acres. Yeah.
Yeah, the Paul Hennig family of shows, and I didn't put Beverly Hillbillies on my list, but it truly belongs there, just from the sense of if you get a Nielsen book of the highest rated TV shows of all time, there's 1 or 2 episodes of the Beverly Hillbillies that made it to that top list, along with Who Shot JR and the Super Bowls. You will find episodes of Beverly Hillbillies on that list. That's how phenomenally popular that show was.
It really was. I was around a little 4th grader, 3rd grader, 2nd grader when I was watching Beverly Hillbillies when they were new, folks. That's how old I am. Jethro, Max Baer Jr., Irene Ryan is Granny.
Now, I got to give you the most obscure reference of all time. For those of us who grew up in New York, and that's many of our listeners, I would imagine, there's a really famous show called Midday with Bill Boggs that was on Channel 5 for like 100 years. I was watching it as a kid, maybe like a 5th grader, and Irene Ryan was on as herself, and everybody knew her as, Granny from the Beverly Hillbillies. So she's on with Bill Boggs, and they're, yamming it up. I think she was on Broadway in the show, and all of a sudden, some like radical person came up on stage and confronted her. And I can't remember what it was all about, but here's Granny getting yelled at by some radical person who had an agenda. She was one of the all-time great TV characters. I mean, there's nothing like Granny chasing off a bunch of family members or Mr. Drysdale. A great show.
And who could forget Buddy Epson. I mean, come on. Those were indelible characters for people of a certain age. All four of them.
It's a victim of that rural purge that CBS had back in there, I think 1971. They canceled all the rural shows of Ed.
That was a great observation you just made, because I was thinking about that too. Is that one year, and these shows had all been hits, the Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, and go down the list, Petticoat Junction, and one day they just decided to, you're gone. That's it. You're over.
Yeah, well, I mean, on the positive side, it brought in all the shows that were contemporary and talked about issues. Your Mary Tyler Moore's, your All in the Family, all those hip shows replaced the classic rural shows that we all love. But they did have something to say, and they were much more relevant to the times.
Absolutely true. And you know what? The other shows were getting long in the tooth, and they got a little desperate at the end too. So they weren't always as good through the length of their runs.
So and Bob knows, if it was left to me, we'd be talking about Mayberry RFD the entire show.
Of course, Ken Berry. I mean, he's a comic genius. Yes, absolutely. All right. How about 24, sir?
Now, I originally on my list, I put this wonderful show that's actually from FX called Better Things, but that's more of a dramedy show. But if you haven't seen Better Things, I highly, highly recommend it. It's like a sitcom, but lots of dramedy involved. I highly recommend it. But I took that off the list. So instead, I put the classic The Addams Family from 1964. It only ran for 2 years in black and white on ABC. But I have to acknowledge The Addams Family, just like we did with Beverly Hillbillies. I don't think there is a better casting of any show of all time. I mean, John Astin seems to be the ultimate Gomez Addams. Carolyn Jones seems to be the perfect Morticia. Ted Cassidy is learned perfect to Lurch. The other people, well, Jackie Coogan as Uncle Fester was brilliant. The other people didn't really matter that much. You had generic kids and you had generic grandmama, but those stars of the show were just phenomenal. It was a brilliantly executed show.
I agree. It's not on my list, but I agree. And the reason it didn't make my list was simply because of the 2-year running. But it's lived on forever in reruns.
And and they've tried to recycle it. They had the movies with Raul Julia from the early 90s. Now there's a Wednesday show on Netflix, and I'm sure they're all good, but nothing can compare to this original classic show.
No, it was really good. But we only had 25 slots. I was looking at, cultural impact and things like that. My 24, another Paul Hennig, is Green Acres, which was and turned into one of the most surreal comedies ever on television. It got stranger and goofier. I mean, Arnold the Pig Goes to Hollywood, and it was just absolutely absurd and funny as heck. And this made only 24 because I laughed at it a whole lot. I really did. When I was young, once in a while, I'll pop onto one of the fringy, like a Pluto station or something. I'll watch an episode, and I still laugh.
And Jim Cornette still references it almost every week. I mean, he talks about the painters that were in the back working on the house. Or he's got people working at his house. He calls them the names of the painters. There,
Ralph and Alf, I think.
Ralph and Alf, that's right. And it was just such a wonderful show. Eddie Albert, stone-faced and serious, and Ava Gabor, glamorous, completely unaware of what's going on around her. And the people like, you had Sam Drucker, you had Mr. Haney. Great show.
I just laughed. I mean, by the last season, the show consisted of Eddie Albert standing in Drucker's store, right? And somebody would run in and say something ridiculous, and Eddie Albert would go, and that is the stupidest. And then somebody else would run in and say something dumb, and Eddie Albert would say, well, I don't know. And then somebody else would run in and say something outrageous. The whole show at the end was Eddie Albert reacting to the craziness around him and trying not to blow his stack. He was great. He was great in that role. He was really funny. And so was Eva Gabor, too.
To me, that's a timeless show. People can watch that 100 years from now and still enjoy it.
Okay. 23, sir.
23 is a more recent show. It was a big smash on NBC in the 90s and the early 2000s, Will and Grace. And I put it on here. I mean, there's some really good actors on there, like Eric McCormick, Deborah Messing. I know my mom in her final days, that was a show that brought a lot of joy to her life. So for no other reason than it brought her a lot of joy, it's on my list.
Good reason as any I can think of. That's a good memory right there.
Yeah. She was not well and not healthy, and she wasn't with us much longer. But the few times that was on the air, brought a lot of joy to her, a lot of happiness. So it's got to be on my list.
That's really nice. My 23 is Good Times.
Didn't make my list, but it should have been. In fact, if it was on my list, it would probably be up really toward the top. It was very, very popular, extremely popular.
Well, we only had a few slots here. There's only 25, and the casting was perfect. The story of an African-American family in Chicago, as I believe, right? I think it was set in Chicago. Their struggles. Basically, that was it. With a comic who took over all of America for about 2 years, Jimmy J.J. Walker, as, JJ. Again, cultural phenomenon like Fonzie or those guys.
Oh, he was, and I was in grade school at the time, and everybody mimicked JJ. Dynamite. I think even that magazine, there was like a Dynamite magazine in school that they probably ripped off of his saying.
Funny show too, and it could be heartwarming. It could be kind of sad. It was the ups and downs of a family struggling to make it, despite the hardworking dad John Amos, who storyline died about 3 years in, right?
Died before the end of the run, but great show, very realistic show.
Absolutely. How about your number 22?
Well, you can keep this one brief because it was Green Acres. I had to include one Paul Henning show on my list, and there it was.
My number 22 is a show I don't particularly like, but I have to put it in because of its cultural impact. It was one of the biggest sitcoms of recent years, and it's Big Bang Theory.
For sure. But I know it's extremely popular. One of my best friends, Robert Klein, who listens to all wrestling podcasts and shows that I'm on, he loves that show. So there's a lot of people that love that show.
Oh, I know a lot of people that loved it too. And they got a spin-off out of it and all this other stuff. I watched a few episodes. I thought it was okay because it was mainly people insulting each other for half an hour, to be honest with you. That's what it felt like. Real snarky, but a huge hit. I mean, probably the biggest of the decade it was on. And I'll tell you what, it deserves to be on the list, I think, just for that. It's always going to be in reruns too, like Seinfeld.
I agree. I concur.
All right. How about your number 21?
21 is more of a critical hit. It didn't really kind of cross over to the cultural mainstream, but for those that liked Hollywood and things of that nature, this was the first HBO smash hit before The Sopranos. This is the Larry Sanders Show with Gary Sandling, and he had Rip Torn and Jeffrey Tambor as his producer and his Ed McMahon type guy, and they really did a great parody of the late night talk scene. And I mean, great job. I think Gary Shandling was under talks of being one of the guys to replace Johnny when Johnny retired. So that's how influential that show was.
Absolutely. That's a very unique pick there. I go into number 21, another cultural phenomenon, and it really was at the time, around 75, 76, 77. I didn't research it that hard. I was just around at the time. Three's Company, featuring John Ritter, who really was a tremendous physical comedian, and even in his later years, did some roles in film and stuff that really showed his versatility as a comic actor. He was really brilliant. Again, it was the beginning of the Jiggle show, Charlie's Angels era, and the ABC wanted another Babe show as it was. But it turned out to be more than that, I think. Don Knotts was a cast member. You had Norman Fell, the Mr. Roper, Mr. and Mrs. Roper. They had their own spin-off and stuff like that. Just a tremendous, tremendous run for that show. They tried to spin it off the end. It didn't work very well. It was huge. I mean, huge. It's so huge that Suzanne Summers got into a contract squabble and left the show. And the things that were going on outside of the show were more talked about than the show itself. But I gave it its slot because of its cultural impact, such as it was, as short-lived as it was, and the brilliance of John Ritter. I think it deserved a slot here.
But you made a brilliant observation there. It did have a huge connection to the general public because in Christmas time here in Tampa, there was a Mrs. Roper dress-alike competition that they had this big outdoor Christmas event that anybody that wanted to show up looking like Mrs. Roper, like wearing a muumuu and wearing this crazy outfit. I know one of my neighbors went with her sisters and her mother. They all dressed like Mrs. Roper. And here it is like 2026 now, and they're doing a parody of a show that was hot in the late 70s. So it definitely has some cultural impact.
Knocked me down with a feather that somebody would have a Mrs. Roper lookalike contest. Okay, give me another one.
Okay, this is a show more recent vintage, but it's one of those few recent ones that really registered with me or resonated with me. A Modern Family, which is a big ABC hit, and now it's really popular in reruns. But it has this huge cast, like with Ed O'Neill and Sofia Vergara, Julie Bowen. It has the same kind of attitude that, say, The Office has, but instead for family life. You know, you get people talking to the camera and giving you their observations. And it's really well done, and they have lots of really well-known special guests appear and do cameos and stuff.
Well, I'll tell you what, just to save time on our show, that's my number 10 pick. That show was on for 11 years. That's impossible in modern television.
Very, very well done. Extremely well done.
What a cast.
I typically wouldn't watch a show like that, but I think I was like in a hotel room. It was on and no other shows were on. I watched it. I said, this is really good.
I tell you what, Ed O'Neill, two hits for him. Sophia, what can I say? Force of nature. Yeah. I mean, it was just a tremendous cast, even down to the little kids who were funny. Yeah. Okay. Did I do Married with Children yet? Because that's next on my list.
Is that your 20?
Yeah. Importance in that. Fox didn't have any hits. There was the first sitcom on the Fox network, as I believe, and it was a hit.
Yeah.
That and The Simpsons, right? And it kind of established the network. Now, I will say this. It was crass. It could be vulgar. It was dumb. Ed O'Neill was great. His wife was equally as funny. The kids were funny. But I wasn't the biggest fan of the show. But I'm going to tell you right now. Here's why it made my list. There's one episode called Ed's Toothache. This is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. From the minute the show starts to the time it's signed off. Also featured on that on that episode were former SCTV cast member Joe Flaherty, along with former porn star Tracy Lords, all in the same episode. And it was a laugh riot from stem to stern. One of the funniest things I've ever watched in my life. Every joke landed, So, even the worst shows will make you laugh. And that one really got me. I just thought it was stupid and funny and worth my time.
Yeah, I think that show was kind of inspired by the Cosby Show. It was like everybody was so happy and like perfect, and now here's a group that's really vulgar and terrible, but they still get along. So they tried to be the anti-Cosby Show.
All right, I guess we're down to 19, huh?
19. So I have this very popular spinoff of Cheers known as Frasier, which ran for a good number of years, probably 7 or 8 seasons on NBC in the 90s. And was very well written, very well performed, and I think it definitely deserved a spot on this list.
I absolutely agree, and I will cut you off again. That's my number 8 pick.
Good.
I thought every cast member was funny. It was also a very charming show at times. It could be very warm, his relationship with his dad and his dad's relationship with his dog. Roz and everybody else were really, really great characters, and it was a very comfortable sitcom.
It was, and very well written, very just well executed. I definitely have nice memories of Frasier.
Yep. How could you not? What a career for Kelsey Grammer. Say what you want about him. Major factor in Cheers and major factor in Frasier. What a career. Good gravy. All right. So my number 19, I had a hem and haw over this one. It was Dick Van Dyke Show. The original Dick Van Dyke Show with Mary Tyler Moore and Maury Amsterdam and Rosemary. Some of the underling stuff on the show was hilarious. Like the constant fights between Mel Cooley and Buddy Sorrell. Every time they would just walk into the office and insult each other, and it was a laugh fest. Carl Reiner production. Now, the reason it's so low on my list, even though it's a classic, is as the show aged, I thought it lost its comic edge a little bit. Dick Van Dyke's Rob Petrie went to city council or something like that, and it got a little bit, I don't know, more into the raising the kid and all these other things. But they had some wild episodes like a Nightmare from Outer Space with Danny Thomas and stuff like that. When it was on, it was hilarious. And Dick Van Dyke, happy 100th birthday, man. Nice job.
He's a class act. And it's weird how the human mind works. I worked on this list yesterday and I thought it was all shipshape and good to go. And, I'm asleep last night. It's like 3:30 in the morning and I wake up. My mind just tells me Dick Van Dyke is not on this list. And so I go to my notebook and I just add it to the list. I had it at number 14, but if I had done this list maybe a few years back, it definitely would have made the top 10. I mean, it was just one of those shows. It was constantly in reruns in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and everybody watched it. I mean, it was one of the first kind of adult sitcoms. It had that Camelot feel to it. I mean, Rob Petrie and his wife, Mary Tyler Moore, were kind of like the John Kennedy and Jackie Kennedy of sitcom.
Okay. Well, now we're up to, what's your number now? We're up to number 18, as I recall.
My number 18, and originally they were much higher on the list. I had to really juggle some numbers, but I went with the Jeffersons, which at the time on Sunday nights was one of those shows you had to watch every week. George and Wheezy and Mr. Bentley coming in to have George walk on his back as the Lionel and all the other characters. Great show. I mean, just hilarious. Sherman Hemsley is one of the most beloved and underrated comedy actors in sitcom history, and he had another smash hit with 227, which was a show my dad loved to watch.
Well, you saved me some more time because that is my number 12. And it was a very popular show. I mean, off the rails in terms of the ratings. It was right up there with all the Family, other Norman Lear stuff of its time. Boy, did Norman Lear make a lot of money for CBS. Holy smokes.
And they were all quality shows. And my one memory that I have above anything else with the Jeffersons, anytime George's mother came on, they completely stole the show. George's mother, she was the best scene stealer on that show.
Yep. People loved it. People just love that show. All right. Oh, Golden Girls. To this day, college-age women in sororities have these little Golden Girls parties. This show was a sort of a phenomenon in not only in the fact that it was, you put four very talented actresses together and just let them fly and be funny, but also in the fact that we're going to base a show on seniors. Very rare for its time. It's rare now. I think that B. Arthur doing a slow burn is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in comedy. No matter what character she was playing, between Maude or her character here, she would just sit there and absorb ridiculousness and finally explode at the end. Kills me every time. What a wonderful actor she was. Rue McClanahan, who they tried to make into the next Marilyn Monroe, it didn't work, but they parlayed that into her character on Golden Girls, right? I mean, it's just Betty White at her age, just a tremendous thing. And Estelle Getty as the mom, major hit. I think people didn't know what to think of it at first. By season 2, there was a certified top 10 show.
It's proved to be much more popular even in reruns now. I mean, like you said, new generations are still discovering it. It's just really remarkable how that's happened.
Really is. All right, give me another pick. I believe we're now at number 17.
Number 17, this one was easy for me to find the list. One of my personal all-time favorites. Yeah, if you look back at 60s sitcoms, there were a lot of ones that were involved in fantasy, like ones like Big Wish, the ones like I Dream of Jeannie. I couldn't put all of them on the list, but the one that I chose to put on the list above all others was Get Smart. Now, Get Smart with the Don Adams as Maxwell Smart. It was a parody of the James Bond movies. Just a classic show with him and Barbara Feldon as 99. And Ed Platt was the chief who was so brilliant. And they had the Cone of Silence and all kinds of gimmicks. It was just a hilarious show.
Well, let us not forget the creators of the show, Mel Brooks and Buck Henry.
Oh, yeah. Talk about loaded show.
Loaded. It was so absurd. And the dimwit Maxwell Smart character and the Cone of Silence and Ed Platt as the chief. I mean, just so many. I laughed thinking of Get Smart.
And they had so many great catchphrases from that show that, I still talk to one of my close friends, Brock, on the phone. We still use those catchphrases like, and loving it. Nothing like that.
And the shoe phone. Go down the list. And you know what? I have it on my list at 13. But I will say that when the original people who worked on the show left the show, it wasn't as good. I remember watching one late episode in its final season where Maxwell Smart was literally battling somebody, and it wasn't even funny. It was like an action scene in the middle of what's supposed to be a sitcom. Nah, they really lost their way with that show the last couple seasons. Let's just say as they would say in Happy Days, they jumped the shark.
They got paid, I guess, a good fortune to go over to CBS for one final year. And I think that they really milked every idea possible out of the show. And I think you're right. I think that they probably had like a new production team. Some of the original writers were gone by that point, and it was just like a watered down version of what we were used to.
The whole show was different. And a lot of shows, as they evolve, tend to change, but that doesn't mean that the first ones weren't just a laugh riot and they deserve a spot. My number 17 is a show you couldn't make me watch today, but I watched every episode when I was young. The Andy Griffith Show. Mayberry. Mayberry now is the national colloquialism for smaller town. Look at him over there. He's from Mayberry. Ha ha ha, right? Floyd the Barber, Goober and Gomer, Thelma Lou, Aunt Bee, Howard Sprague, Floyd the Barber. Floyd the Barber is the most beloved underling in the history of sitcoms. Oh, gee, Mrs. B, the chicken. Oh, so good. Just the funniest thing. But now I find that I try to watch it, and I watched one episode a few years ago, right? And the show was Opie had a friend who wasn't a good boy. And the theme of the show is, well, if he's that bad of a good boy, you got to take him out in the woodshed. That was the theme of the show.
Well, I put Andy Griffith on my list. I actually put it at number 7 because to me, it's like, that was one of those shows that kept TBS alive. It was like wrestling, old movie, phrase games, and that. To me, it's one of the all-time great TV shows, but I'm in the minority. Usually the people that love Andy Griffith love the black and white episodes with Barney and Andy doing their thing. I like the colored episodes where Andy's like bent out of shape and he's always telling Opie, you get everything. You know that? He's all pissed off. They have, mainly it's Floyd and Goober providing the humor, but I just love the colored episodes. Yeah, go shoot me. I'm sorry.
There was one show where Andy had to go to like 6 different dinner parties in one night and eat at all of them. And he was mad at, I think Barney made a mistake and set him up to go to all these places on the same day. Andy Griffith was a funny guy. He could really, really be funny on that show. And that was he was the glue. He wasn't the funniest on the show, but he was the glue that held it all together. Not nuts. Come on. I mean, jeez.
Yeah, he was a remarkable character, Barney Five. He really was.
Really was. I mean, people still get referred to. Nebishes still get referred to as Barney Five all these years later. All right, you got a number 16 there or what?
16, I got to put the beloved Taxi Show from the late 70s, early 80s. Judd Hirsch, Marilu Henner, Andy Kaufman, Tony Danza. It's a great ensemble cast. Extremely well written, well executed. Just a funny, classy show about New York. Very important cab drivers. Great show.
Very good. Mine is going to surprise you. My number 16 is 30 Rock.
No, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Mainly because I love 30 Rock. My goal my whole life was to work at 30 Rock. I don't care if I had to take the garbage out. I wanted to work at 30 Rock. And it was like an SNL sketch for half an hour every week with the old SNL players. That's enough for me. That's all I'll say. Tina Fey, to me, is a brilliant writer and performer. I loved it. It was great.
Oh, and Alec Baldwin was brilliant, too. It was so cutting edge and so well written. It was like you said, like watching a live SNL skit on a Thursday night for a half hour. A good one. It was hilarious.
Alec Baldwin was the jerk boss you've all had. All right, we're down to 15?
Yes, sir. This is a show I've been told that a lot of police said it was the greatest police show ever, the most real cop show ever, but it's a sitcom, Barney Miller. It was on for many, many years on ABC from the mid-70s to around 1980. And Hal Linden and Max Gale, Jack Sue, a whole host of others. Just a great cast. One of the best ensemble shows of all time, and just a hilarious show.
One of my most favorite shows of all time. The cast, every single one of them was funny. They all had different personalities. There are New York City police officers who claimed that was the most realistic police show because that's what a day in their life was like.
It wasn't even a detective show. It was just a sitcom.
Yeah. And they because, the drudgery of paperwork, that's what real police have to do. And the characters, Fish with Abe Vigoda, like you say, Steve Landesberg as Dietrich, Ron Glass, just go down the list of everybody who's on the show. Jack Sue, just go on Max Gale. They were all equally talented and funny. I watched the shows today on some of the apps that they have. And by the way, virtually all these shows can be found without having to pay for them if you search hard enough on the Roku box or something like that. And the Plutos and Tubies of the world have a lot of these shows. I'll just say that.
DVDs too. You can rent them at your library.
Well, the new libraries, you could rent them like the videos. Watch them on your device. So Barney Miller, and they closed it because they said we said what we had to say. They were still up in the ratings, but they decided to pull the plug on it just because the quote was it was just time.
I know you love Dietrich, the commissioner there, James Gregory. He was great.
No, they all were. And not only that, you'd see famous Broadway actors and New York City area actors playing who was brought into the station, the criminals, the people with the complaints. You never know who you were going to see waltz through that door every episode. I love Barney Miller, I have to admit it.
Actually, my beloved aunt and grandmother, they would watch it every night at 7:30 for like 7 or 8 straight years. It was on reruns every night that hour. They loved it.
Yes. One of the cool themes of all time. Best themes. Oh my gosh. All right. I guess it's mine. First, there was All in the Family, and then came Maude. They tackle a lot of topics on that show. That's not why I liked it. I just liked it because of B. Arthur.
Yeah.
And Bill Macy, but
Oh, she took me to a new place.
okay, fine. You young. I won't even say it. I won't say it. But I will say this: Bill Macy. Bill Macy is the greatest comic actor of all time at delivering one line that you need. He delivered 2 lines. I'm going to just say what they were to pay tribute to Bill Macy. Number 1 was in the original producers. Picture his voice in your mind. You hear his voice. And he was the foreman at the original producers with Zero Mostel and Gene Wilder. And the judge says, has the jury reached its decision, its verdict? Bill Macy says, we find a defendant incredibly guilty, in that Bill Macy voice. And then, in my favorite year with Peter O'Toole, he comes bouncing into the studio, right? And you hear Bill Macy, he's plastered. If you need one line to be delivered, and then it was a third line on a show that was a Pamela Anderson sitcom. Jenny McCarthy was the guest. Yeah. And she was getting married to this ancient Bill Macy character, right? Yeah. She's getting married to this guy. And Jenny McCarthy's going, oh, he's so smart. He owns 2 airports, and he's got all this other stuff. And this doddering old Bill Macy just walks up and goes, I ate 2 bananas today. Bill Macy was who you call on for one funny line. And I rest my case. You're laughing now. You didn't even see the show.
I'm gonna give you props for in the same realm. I'm gonna give my props to Harold Gould, who was the dad on Rhoda. He was really good. That's all I want to say.
Yes, if you need the one line, there were some actors you just go to. All right, now that was my number 15, so now you go to 14.
14, we can move right along. It was the Dick Van Dyke Show. We already talked that one up. So what's your 14?
My 14 is one of my parents' favorite shows every Friday night on NBC. It's Sanford and Son.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I've got that on my list. That's my number 9. It's just incredibly funny right now. Him and Lamont, it's just great. But that's your show, so talk it up.
Just the casting is perfect. Red Fox is first at his advanced age, his first national stardom, really, because back when he was young, he used to make party records, if you know what those are. They were not for the kids, but they were for the adults. So we'll put it that way. Like, he was in the same class as like Rusty Warren with those dirty songs and all that stuff. You know, it's what he did, party records. But this made him a national star. And I think the show, to be honest, if you look behind the scenes and read the history of the show, was kind of killed off by Red Fox's salary demands or something. Because I remember he left that show to do his own variety show on ABC that tanked almost immediately. He should have hung it out because you know what? When this show was on, it was really, really funny. I mean, Damon Wilson bantering with Red Fox, it just worked. And the side character, LaWanda Page, Aunt Esther, please. If she didn't win an Emmy every year for that portrayal, I don't know who should have. Wow.
Oh, and Rollo, Grady Wilson, you can't forget him. And I can remember Fred and the things he would say, like, I'm coming to join you.
That's right. Oh, my God. Elizabeth. It's the big one, Elizabeth. Yeah.
And he's talking about, like, that time they were at the nightclub, and he kept saying, we want the 3 degrees.
I love that when it was new. You're right. You just jogged my memory. Good job, sir.
And then that time he went on the gong show there and they banged the gong and it looked like Fred was just going to collapse. So it was great.
There you go. Wow. All right. We are up to 13.
13. And this one's probably even higher for you, I'm just guessing, but the classic, the Bob Newhart show, the one where he's the doctor, the psychiatrist, psychologist in Chicago with Peter Bonners, the dentist, and Suzanne Plachette. Not the one in Vermont with the beautiful Mary Fran, but the one in Chicago. This was one of the greatest sitcoms of all time.
Now, for 13 and 12, you can just tell me what they are because we've already talked about Get Smart. We've already talked about the Jeffersons. That's my 12 and 13. So if you would like to move on to number 11, please feel free to do so.
Number 11 is Curb Your Enthusiasm. A show just ended a year or two ago with the greatest curmudgeon, Larry David. And so, he's the creator of Seinfeld. So he takes a lot of the mentality of Seinfeld, but puts it more to adult situations and crazy stuff that goes on. And they have an incredible cast of characters. Bob Einstein there was on that show, and all the different characters they have. Just a wonderful cast. Jeff Garland was awesome on that.
Cheryl Hines has been in the news lately. I don't know why, but okay. I'm 211 now, and I'm going to talk about Bewitched. For me, it doesn't hold up after all these years, but I will say this. Dick York was a great comic actor. And it's a shame that he had a back injury so severe he had to quit. That's why he left the show.
And you know who also was great was that Laurie White that played Mr. Tate.
He was good. Could be cunning. He could be funny. Elizabeth Montgomery, just a very unique actress that made her a star for the first time, really, and perfect casting.
That may have been the first hit ABC ever had. It was, a mega hit in the early 60s.
It certainly was. All right. Are we down to number 10 now already? Jeez.
Yeah, number 10, another show that I'm sure you're very familiar with. I bet you it's even higher for you, The Office with Steve Carell. It's a wonderful show, recent show from NBC, but it's on in reruns constantly on every channel you can imagine. I think it's on Netflix, it's on Comedy Central, it's on TBS, it's everywhere, but everybody loves it.
There you go. I'm going to say this. Our lists are very different. Very different. We're probably going to come up with, between the two of us, 30 different shows here, more than that, because it's like maybe 40, because it's like my list is way different than yours. I can tell just from this point. So, all right. So at 11, I had Bewitched. 10, I had Modern Family, which we talked about before.
Okay. So number 9, I have Sanford and Son, which we already talked about. What's your number 9?
A show I don't like, but it was a cultural phenomenon. That's why it's on the list. It's Friends.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Friends. I just kept it off the list. I mean, I could have put it on just for the importance of it, but I'm not saying it's a bad show. It's actually a good show, but it's just like... No.
I run into it every so often, get a couple chuckles out of it. Like one time, I remember, the last time I actually watched like 3 episodes of Friends, I had jury duty. And they had the TV on in the courthouse. So I had no choice to either stare at my phone or watch Friends, and I watched Friends, and it was okay. The show was all right.
He was really good, and the 3 girls were really good, and especially the blonde there, the ditzy one there, Lisa Kudrow. They're all good actors, but Lisa Kudrow I thought was a standout. But it's overrated, I think, as far as sitcoms go. I mean, it's good,
but it's not overrated in terms of the phenomenon it was in the ratings. I'll tell you that. It was the biggest show of its era. Number 8.
Number 8, I'm assuming this is higher on the list for you and you. The beloved Cheers is ran on NBC from 1982 to I think around 1991 or so. A huge hit on NBC, and filmed at Paramount, and actually did a tour of Paramount Pictures once, and I saw the outdoor of the Cheers set.
There you go. I'll let you know right now to shorten time element here. My Cheers is at number 7. Big fans in my first newspaper office of Cheers. It was on reruns while it was still on. They put reruns on at like 6:30 at night. We all used to get together, eat Chinese food, and watch Cheers on this tiny little television right through the rabbit ears. So oh, those were the days. My good buddies at the Catskill Daily Mail. Hey guys, hi Bob Dial, how are you?
What's cool about that show too is that it kind of went through like 2 different stages. The first few years was the Jack and Diane dynamic with Shelley Long. And then you had the Coach, and then in the later years you had the Woody Harrelson, Kirstie Alley years, and they were quite different, both quite different, but both quite good.
But I think the show was more than that. Everybody could identify with every single character on the show, right? From Woody Harrelson to again Frasier to Norm. Norm was a national treasure. It's like Norm was the everyman we all know. It's a dog-eat-dog world, not wearing milk-bone underwear. Right?
And Cliff was the know-it-all.
Cliff was everybody's mailman. I'm telling you, everything rang true on that show. And who wouldn't want a place where you could get off work and just go hang out? I've never had a place like that in my life. I've gone to places, but I never felt that at home like all these people did. That's what made it so special, I think. The relationships between the characters.
What's your number 8?
Oh, Frasier.
My number 7 was the beloved Andy Griffith Show, which we've also already talked about. What's your 7?
So cheers.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
right.
Number 6, I'll go with MASH. And the only reason I included it, despite what Bob told me about dramedies, to me, the first 4 years they did with McLean Stevenson and Wayne Rogers and Larry Linville, that was like just a classic sitcom devices. It wasn't too preachy, but as the show went on, it got more preachy about the war and everything. And I think that's why Bob didn't want to put it on the list. So I can understand that.
Yeah, I looked at it more as a dramedy than a comedy. Nothing wrong. And again, I just want to say to everybody out there, nothing wrong with a dramedy. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I'm just talking situation comedy, with comedy being the ace word here. So there you go. So, all right, we down to 6 at this point? Seinfeld. Yeah, Seinfeld. I am not the fan of the show that a lot of people were. But I remember I was at a music industry conference in Denver. I used to work in the blues music department for the Association for Independent Music. And every year they had an annual convention in a different city. And that year it was in Denver. During the convention, I was the chairman of the blues department, right? Blues music department. And all these different genres of music, all these labels are there, all assembled in the hotel. What happens when that show? They all stopped and they catered a party so we could all watch the final episode of Seinfeld. It was still one of the highest rated shows of all time, even though it disappointed a great number of people. But that's my Seinfeld story. It's just, I couldn't believe, and people were upset. Like, we should be talking business. Why are we stopping to watch Seinfeld? You know why? It was a cultural phenomenon. That's why.
I love Seinfeld. The early ones, the very early ones, they really tried to almost kind of parody Woody Allen. Jason Alexander, George's character, was kind of that neurotic Woody Allen type character. But, as the years went on, it got more broader and more physical comedy with Kramer. But it's just a great show. I mean, it's on constantly. I'm sure up in New York, it's on all the time on Channel 11 or one of those channels. And it's just going to be on in reruns forever. It'll never change.
Oh, and it continues to make boku bucks too. I mean, it was such a huge hit. When the first season came and went, it wasn't that highly rated, but by season 2, the thing was in the top 10. And then by the rest of its run, it was practically number 1 every week. So you can't argue with success.
Yeah, and actually, that was a show produced by Castle Rock, which is Rob Reiner's company. And apparently, he was the person that kept pushing the NBC keep that show because it was struggling at first. And I heard some urban legend that maybe they saved some money by running Saturday Night's Main Event, and they used that money toward keeping Seinfeld on the air.
I've heard that story too, probably from you. All right. So what are we down to now? Is it you or me? I'm getting old.
What was your Seinfeld number?
That was number 6.
Okay, my number 5 is the legendary The Honeymooners. And it's mainly because of those 39 classic episodes that were always on the air on Channel 9, not Channel 9, Channel 11 and WPX in New York all those years for decades on end. I think they're still occasionally on Channel 11 for I know.
No. They're still on weekends, and they just did their annual New Year's Eve celebration. But all-day marathon, it's still running strong in New York.
Yeah, I mean, as I was growing up, and of course my college years, there was this classic lineup that they had on WPAX of The Odd Couple, followed by The Honeymooners, followed by Star Trek, followed by Twilight Zone. And to me, that was the greatest TV lineup of all time.
Yes, there were. Well, I will say now that my Honeymooners was number 1 because of its longevity, because of its indelible humor. Art Carney, of course, as Ed Martin. Trixie and Alice, all perfectly cast, and the brilliance of Jackie Gleason, who somehow knew in his heart and soul when he was making those shows to make them look good as best he could with multi-camera shoots and a better film processing process. Other shows of that era, the 1950s, look like dog food compared to when you watch The Honeymooners. The only one that compares of that era, and it was a little bit later, was I Love Lucy. But somehow he had the foresight to make it look good because he said, this show's going to run forever. And guess what? It has run forever.
He was so incredibly talented. I mean, he had a big career in movies later on. He had been in vaudeville even before TV days. The first I knew of him when I was a little kid, I was like just a toddler. That was the program that my mom and dad really enjoyed on Saturday nights, was his variety show coming live from Miami Beach, Florida. And he had all this variety with the June Taylor dancers and, playing all the, different characters. You got to love the Honeymooners. No, that's all I can say.
All I know about the Jackie Gleason Variety Hour is this. That was the fakest crowd noise I've ever heard. You remember how they would roar? It sounded like a coliseum full of people just losing their mind. No way. No way. Crazy Guggenheim. Frankie Fontaine, yeah. Oh, God, are we old? All right, anyway. What are we down to now, sir?
That was my number 5. What's your number 5?
You're going to fall on the floor. Something relatively new. In fact, I think 3 years ago it went off the air. Schitt's Creek. The little show that could. Eugene Levy and his son, right?
Right.
Dan Levy, and they come up with this idea. They bring in old compadre Catherine O'Hara and a great younger cast to augment it. And I watched the first 2 episodes. I didn't like it. And then by its second season, it started to build and build and build and got a couple bigger networks at the same time. It was really funny by the time it hit its stride. It was unlike anything else on television. You could identify these Park Avenue types that were forced to live in a hotel. I mean, it was perfect. Everybody was funny. I don't know how to put it other than it was a slow build that by the time it ends, they were on the cover of every magazine in America. Yeah, that just doesn't happen in modern times. Yeah.
It turned both of them, Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara, from SCTV veterans to like these iconic mainstream pop culture people. And I mean, that's how beloved the show was. And I think that girl that plays David's sister there is remarkably talented. Just wonderful.
Even the lower cast members.
Yeah.
I forget who the woman was. It was like the front register there. She was funny. And they had Chris Elliott on. So anyway, that makes a surprisingly high impact for me. And now I'll ask you your number 4.
Number 4, I'm going with the classic I Love Lucy.
Bingo! Ding, 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 ding. We're both in the same spot. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, like you said about the Honeymooners, this was the first show with Desi's brilliance, the way he used the cameras to give the show this dynamic look, and just the humor. I mean, it's also timeless. I mean, you can go back today and watch them. Some of these shows, yeah, and Lucy's probably one of them. I'm not going to go seek it out. I've seen them all dozens of times already, but you have to admire the high quality of work and the craftsmanship to make those shows still resonate after watching them time and time again. As we've seen, I'm sure you and I have both seen every I Love Lucy probably a half dozen or a dozen times each.
Well, I will say this: if you want to look for an equal to Jackie Gleason in terms of foresight, it was Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball. Because again, they said we're going to make this show look good. From that era, it's the Honeymooners and I Love Lucy. In terms of, you could show it now and it doesn't look all that dated. Only the fact that it's black and white really reveals that. The Vivian Vance and William Frawley, come on, it just worked. You fell in love with these people. They were all appealing and they could all be annoying, but at the end of the show, they were all pals again and all that stuff. Baba Lou, come on. For years, I'm going to just come on and admit this. For years, I thought Lucy was so doggone annoying. But Ricky, oh gosh, I think the show did set marriages back about 30 years in the United States. There's no question about it. And that's Ricky's fault too. They were just so old fashioned. But at the end, the laughs were there. And when they had their baby, didn't they set an all-time ratings record, I think?
Knowing what we know about the world today, it's amazing back in the early 1950s that the mainstream society accepted Desi Arnaz as Cuban-born band leader, really white Lucille Ball. I'm surprised that people didn't, riot and go berserk. I mean, I'm sure there were some people that were unhappy about it, but thankfully sanity prevailed and that Desi Arnaz became this cultural icon.
No, you know what? Athletes are the same way. If somebody falls in love with the way I hit a baseball, it doesn't matter where you're from. It's true. Yeah. And it ought to be that way for everybody, for everything. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, are we down to number 3 now?
Number 3, I have the incredible All in the Family.
You did it again, my friend.
You're number 3?
Yeah. I'll talk it up because the first episode, I remember watching and going, I'm a kid watching and going, boy, they're really stretching the boundaries on this one. I don't know what, Norman Lear, at the beginning of his dominance as a TV producer and developer, all I know is that the show as the characters developed, got better and better. You just started to see the more comic sensibilities of Gene Stapleton and Sally Struthers. Of course, Rob Reiner, who we just lost so tragically, they were all so talented, and they just merged so perfectly. And you felt like you knew these people. You felt like you knew them. They lived next door or down the street. They were that type of realistic Queens family.
They're very relatable. You're right.
Totally relatable, every one of them. And it's like you knew the really good person that had the bigoted father or the crass father, somebody like that. And you go, how did that man sire these kids? But that's the way life is in America. And they brought up a lot of serious topics. The only reason the show was that low for me, because it is a cultural icon, was that, in my opinion, the show after the two kids left, Sally Struthers and Rob Reiner, I thought the show suffered for that. I think the show suffered when they went to a pre-recorded show that was shown to audiences later so they could get different, it was more like people watching the show on videotape. I didn't think the show was as funny in its last few years. They brought in the kid and other new characters. It just didn't have the flow or the feel that it had earlier on. And Archie Bunker's Place I never had any use for. When All in the Family was a new thing, holy smokes. And everybody, Saturday nights at 7 or 8 or whatever it was, the whole nation tuned in together to watch them.
This was how popular the show was. I can remember back in those days, we're in the winter weather and we put on the radio when you woke up just to see if school was closed because of snow. And on a Monday morning, because the show aired on Saturday nights, the local DJ would play like excerpts of the show, like Archie's best lines. What other sitcom ever did that? What other sitcom resonated like that where a local DJ would play highlights? I mean, none. I can't think of any. And I mean, that's how important the show was. And they marketed this show too. I mean, not only did they have a board game like most shows did, but they had coffee cups and all kinds of Archie paraphernalia. And Archie Bunker was such a kind of polarizing character. Some people hated him because of his kind of bigoted beliefs, and other people loved him for his bigoted beliefs. So it's not unlike what we're kind of seeing in some ways today. So it's very interesting.
I think the one good thing about the Archie character, which is brilliantly portrayed by Carol O'Connor, he was nothing like Archie Bunker in real life. Here's the beauty part, though. In those later episodes that weren't as funny, I will say that you saw the evolution of Archie Bunker from the first All the Family show to the last Archie Bunker's Place. He had mellowed. He wasn't as crass. He suffered loss when Edith died and the kids moved away and stuff like that. There was a lot of human elements, and I think as he aged, it showed how a person can evolve.
Right.
Can move past the stuff that was told to him when he was young that was wrong. And I remember when he brought the little girl a Jewish star. Touched me.
Yeah.
That was very touching. He didn't believe that she should have one. And then by the end of the episode, he went on and bought one for her.
That's beautiful.
Is it beautiful? And
I remember the hilarious episode where him and Mike were locked in the basement together. And that's when he kept talking about shoe booty. He lost his shoe or a boot, and they had one shoe and one boot, shoe booty.
There you go. There's a lot of those great moments in that show. All in the Family, what a classic. And by the way, it's available. Most of these shows that we're talking about, if you got a Roku box, you're going to find them. Because Roku is the best of all the streaming devices in that you type the name of the show and it will tell you where you can find them. Now, most of these you can find for free. Some of them you can't. Some of them are on things that are pay services like Amazon Prime or some of the others like Hulu and stuff like that. Or Peacock, some of them are on. But you know what? All of these are available. Every show on our list is available for you to find and enjoy in our old age.
And if all else fails, you can go on Amazon and buy the DVDs. Most of them I have Blu-rays or box sets.
I did the same thing with Star Trek. You and Brian Arcello wanted the show about Star Trek, and I immediately started racking my brain. Where can I find DVDs in the original, first couple of seasons? And I found them, and you're the guys that put the bee in my bonnet. So thank you for that. To number 2, please.
My number 2 was Seinfeld, which we already discussed, which is incredible, and I can't talk highly enough about it. But what was your number 2?
Well, we talked earlier about what my number 1 was, which is The Honeymooners, because of its lasting impact on television. Number 2 is number 2 because it's my favorite television show of all time. My favorite sitcom of all time by such a large standard, I can't put it into words. Jack Klugman and Tony Randall as the Odd Couple. Nothing will ever touch that in my heart and mind. I watched it on Channel 11 in reruns. I was old enough to watch it on ABC when it first ran, and for 5 years that, both stars said they tried to cancel this 5 years in a row because the rating was so low, but they stuck with the show for 5 seasons. Thank goodness they did. It's better than the Odd Couple movie, the series is. There's no question in my mind. They developed the characters more. They had great script writers like Mickey Rose, Gary Marshall and people like that. People with huge track records in show business were writing the scripts. Al Molinaro Murray the Cop. Penny Marshall was on the show. Go down the list. If I want to laugh, I watch The Odd Couple. I could list the episodes. I'm not going to bore you with this. I just want to say the two characters never came to life better in any drama or comedy than Felix Unger as portrayed by Tony Randall and Jack Klugman as Oscar Madison. It was perfect casting. I read Klugman's book. You know who Oscar Madison's clothes were? Those were Jack Klugman's clothes. They didn't even have to have a wardrobe department with Jack Klugman. He wore that kind of stuff. Those odd shirts that would fit a certain way. Those were his real life shirts. So, they couldn't make him look more slovenly than he really was. The Password episode, the Let's Make a Deal episode, Marathon, when they're trying to figure out who's fitter than the other so they can save on insurance money. Go down the list. Oh my God, golden earrings. They get Oscar wins a racing dog in a card game. Show after hilarious show.
Or how about the time when Felix said, "I don't like it's in my juice."
Oh yeah. Yeah, Oscar was sleepwalking, yes. But just allow me one more gush, because I'm gushing. I proudly have not only Jack Klugman's book called Tony and Me, which is the story of their friendship, which is still in print. If you ever want to read that, Jack Klugman's memoir about his Odd Couple years. And secondly, I own a New York Mets baseball cap signed by Jack Klugman.
Holy cow, that's one for the ages.
That's not because I'm a Met fan, it's because I'm an Odd Couple fan. And I saw Jack Klugman and Tony Randall on Broadway in The Sunshine Boys, and that came after Klugman had his throat surgery where he left him with a raspy voice, but he pulled his way through, and it was fine. If I miss anything on this mortal coil when it comes to entertainment, it's The Odd Couple.
It's number one on my list, and actually, this is what inspired me to talk to you to see if you would be up for doing a top sitcoms of all time. Because to me, this is a show that doesn't nearly get enough love or attention because it has held up better than any of the other shows. I mean, I think if you look at all the other shows, as great as All in the Family was, it's definitely rooted in the 70s. I mean, The Odd Couple, to me, is timeless. I mean, the things that they do, the things that they go through, the misadventures that they go through, it could be happening today. Yeah, they're not using cell phones, but it's just hilarious, the stuff that they go through. And I don't think there's ever been a sitcom that has so much heart, so much great performances, and the great writing. Is the ultimate sitcom in my opinion.
Yeah, for me too. It just was. It's perfect. I still watch it to this day. I own the box set, and I still watch the ones that are on Tubi and stuff like that. I mean, I can't get enough of it. If I got the blues, man, I'm putting The Odd Couple on. It still has that effect on me.
And I will tell you this fond memory I have. In 1978, when my brother and I was in 9th grade, he was in 12th grade, we got on the bus to go home to watch the one-game playoff Bucky Dent game against the Red Sox. Before that game aired, the Odd Couple episode aired on PAX, the one where Felix shuffles off to Buffalo to be with his brother. It's a great episode, and then the big game happened, and Bucky Dent hit the home run, and the Yankees won.
Jeez. Wow, that's something else. I have one more thing here, too. Locally here in the New York City area, on most of the cable systems, there is Channel 55 from Long Island, which is an independent station. It's actually owned by CBS, but it's really an independent station. And for at least a decade here, on New Year's Eve into New Year's Day, they would have an Odd Couple marathon. They would show 25 episodes of The Odd Couple. And guess what? This is the first year they didn't have it in ages.
Terrible.
I went to set it up on my DVR, just to tape the episode so I can just hit a button and just watch them. No, not this year. Here's the thing. These shows that we love, thank goodness for, media like DVDs and these new streaming services. Some of them are free out there where you can watch The Twilight Zone. You can watch Cheers. You can watch The Odd Couple. You can watch old episodes of My Little Margie. You'll find it out there somewhere. Even old stuff. Ernie Kovacs. We are living in a golden age now as older Americans of being able to find the stuff we may not have seen in decades. I think it's great. This is a golden age for old. What do you think?
You're right. It is a golden age since we have all these tools at our fingertips. We never knew about streaming services. Now we have them. We can make use of them. Yeah, but there's nothing like watching these old programs that bring you so much joy. I mean, they were so professionally made. They hold up so well. It's just been great talking with you, Bob. But I think we've covered every episode or every number on the list.
I think we have. And I just want to say comedy is necessary. Comedy takes the edge off people's lives. After a long day of work, maybe you feel you didn't get paid enough, or maybe you lost your job today. What's going to make you feel better? You're going to go home and plop yourself in front of a television and watch a sitcom. That's why they're so vital. And I hope as things evolve on television and everything gets more fragmented now, that the sitcom never goes away. We need that break in life. It's important. And that's why you feel so close. When I talk about The Odd Couple, I feel like I knew these guys. They were so natural as actors. I felt like I knew these people. You knew their nuances. You knew what they liked and what they didn't like.
Yeah, they're believable. It wasn't like you're watching a show, they're actors. You believe they're real people.
Right.
And you can relate to them.
Same with the Bunkers and people like that. You just knew who we were going to see when you tuned in. I don't know how many people get that feeling anymore, but it meant a whole lot in the 70s, man. That's all I got to say. In my formative years, when I was, becoming older, becoming an adult, these shows took the edge off. And I thank the creators and actors and writers of all of these fantastic shows.
I couldn't agree more. I remember I actually used to own a book about the Odd Couple. I think Rick Mitz wrote the book. And I also used to have a book called The Great TV Sitcom Book that was published in 1980. I know that's out there on Amazon if you want it. But I mean, there's just so many great sitcoms. I'm glad that you and I got to review probably about 35 to 40 of our favorites all time. And it was a lot of fun talking with you, Bob.
It's always great to talk to you, Steve. I don't care if we're talking about the price of milk, man. It's always great to bump into you and have a nice conversation with you. You're an ace in the podcast world, and I want to thank you for coming on again.
It's been a lot of fun. I thank you for having me, and I look forward to doing it with you again in the near future, hopefully.
Folks, look for him on the Stick to Wrestling podcast on the Arcadia Vanguard Network and a lot of other podcasts. His name is Steve Gennarelli. Steve, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Bob. Great being here with you today.
Okay, now we're going to go into our Outdated Entertainment Hour top 25 sitcoms of all time. Now, again, this is just our favorites. In no way is this a comprehensive list for anybody. It's just a way of looking back with fondness and gratitude at all those cool shows we grew up watching. Just remember, in anything in life, there is no best ever. It's all up to you, right? I do want to mention one more thing. As we talked, Steve Gennarelli and I, Steve omitted his number 12 pick as we went down our individual lists. We just got excited and overlooked it. So I just want you to know that his number 12 pick was the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which is going to end up on our top 25. So see if you agree with our picks for the Outdated Entertainment Hour's favorite 25 sitcoms. The Outdated Entertainment Hour, top 25 favorite sitcoms of all time. Number 25, The Golden Girls. A tie at number 23, Taxi and 30 Rock. A tie at number 21, Maude and Barney Miller. Number 20, The Bob Newhart Show. A tie at 18, Bewitched and The Mary Tyler Moore Show. Number 17, The Office. Number 16, Friends. Number 15, Frasier. Number 14, MASH. Number 13, The Dick Van Dyke Show. Number 12, Modern Family. Number 11, Schitt's Creek. Number 10, Get Smart. Number 9, The Jeffersons. Number 8, Sanford and Son. Number 7, The Andy Griffith Show. Number 6, Cheers. A tie at number 4, I Love Lucy and Seinfeld. A tie at number 2, All in the Family and The Honeymooners. And number 1, The Odd Couple. Attention, Gen Xers! If you'd like to explore the era that appeals to you, look no further than GenerationXWire.com. It's a generation who grew up with elite in entertainment, music, movies, TV, books, pro wrestling, and more, finally has a one-stop destination for all their Gen X needs. From Aerosmith to Batman to the Killer Bees to the Twilight Zone, there's something for everybody at GenerationXWire.com. You won't find a more eclectic mix of pop culture content than at the leading website that specializes in the greatest generation, GenerationXWire.com. Check it out today. Outdated Entertainment Hour puts the first episode in the books for 2026. Write to us. outdatedent, that's outdatedent at gmail.com. Our website is outdatedentertainment.buzzsprout.com. All of our episodes can be heard at the click of a button right there from the inauguration of the show right till today. Find me on Facebook. I'm the only Bob Smith, who in my guise is Robert Charles, sang with B.B. King. And you can see the picture right on my lead page. I did that 10 times in my career. I was a blues singer, baby. Well, sort of, I guess. We're at every other social media. Look for Bob Smith or outdated_Bob. Look for this. I use the same photo, the same publicity photo. I'm standing in front of a picture from the Montreux Jazz Festival poster. That's the Bob Smith you're looking for, with a lot more hair than I have now. Not that I can't grow it long. I cut it recently to make myself look even more decrepit than I already am. So in any event, if you want to find me, that's how you can find me. And again, our website is outdatedentertainmenthour.buzzsprout.com. That's it for now. We'll be back in about a month's time with another edition. We got some rock and roll coming your way. We got some stuff in the works. Please stick with us. We really appreciate your support. And we hope we jogged a few memories with looks at TV, situation comedies, a genre that I hope lasts well into the decades ahead. My name is Bob Smith. You know me from my days as a writer and a sports writer. These days, I host a couple of podcasts, and we hope you come back and listen to both this and the Outdated Wrestling Hour at your earliest convenience. Until then, in the words of the legendary Ringo Starr, who will never be outdated, peace and love, brothers and sisters. Peace and love.